Ava Reynolds, mid-30s, freelance journalist and podcaster who covers forgotten disasters and abandoned places. She arrives in Crestwood to investigate the house the wind won't leave, the ruins of the old Crestwood Children's Home. Ready to begin? Title: Whispers in the Wind, the chilling tale of Crestwood's forgotten souls. The first thing Ava noticed when she stepped out of her car was the sound. Not traffic, not birds, just wind. Constant, low, and strange. It didn't howl or rush. It whispered, like it was moving through something hollow. Something that didn't want to be heard, but couldn't stay quiet. She turned off the ignition. Checked the map. Crestwood, population 1,812. If you believe the peeling sign at the edge of town. She was here to research the 1971 fire that destroyed Crestwood Children's Home. A tragedy buried so deep, even Wikipedia had only one line about it. No official death toll, no cause listed. Just a rumor. They heard screams long after the flames were gone. The town was clean but silent. Old houses with tight blinds. Locals who watched too long. The kind of place that forgot loudly. She booked a room at the Pine Hollow Motel and asked the woman at the front desk about the orphanage. The woman didn't flinch, just said, "Don't go up there after sundown. The wind turns." Ava waited for a laugh, a smirk. None came. The hike to the old orphanage ruins took 40 minutes. The building had long since collapsed. All that remained was the foundation, cracked stone walls, and what looked like a staircase to a basement that no longer existed. But the wind, it was louder here. It seemed to swirl in a circle, never leaving the ruins. Ava unpacked her gear, set her mic, hit record. She asked, what really happened here?" And the wind answered, not in words, but with a voice, software unmistakable, a child's whisper carried on the breeze. "We're still here." Ava froze. She played the audio back to make sure she hadn't imagined it. Nothing, just wind, but she'd heard it. She was sure. A voice, young, calm, threaded into the breeze. "We're still here." She tried again. "Can you tell me your name?" She waited. Only silence. Then faintly, like a breath exhaled directly into her ear. A whisper. "Eloise." That night she returned to town. Digging through the Crestwood Public Library. A one-room annex behind the church, dusty and stubbornly analog. No digital archives. The librarian, an elderly man with a crooked tie and a worse attitude, didn't want to help. Until she said the name, Eloise. He stopped mid-shelving, spine stiffening. "Where did you hear that name?" "I found it," she lied. "In the ruins." He stared at her for a long moment. Then he whispered, "That name was never in the papers. She wasn't supposed to be there." Eloise Michaels, 9 years old. No photo, no parents listed. She was a ward of the state, one of many forgotten children in Crestwood's home. But she wasn't listed among the 23 official deaths from the fire. Her name didn't appear anywhere. No grave, no record. It was like she never existed. Back in her motel room, Ava pulled up the audio again. She slowed it down, applied filters, noise reduction. Buried deep in the static between wind gusts, she found something terrifying. Other voices, layered, crying, chanting, one even laughing. And under it all, a phrase repeated 3 times in the same childlike whisper. "She locked the door. She locked the door. She left us." The next morning, Ava woke to find her notebook open on the motel desk. She hadn't left it there. A page had been torn out. And on the window glass, fogged by morning condensation, were small handprints. Far too small to be hers. Ava didn't call the front desk. She didn't file a report. Something in her gut told her the town already knew. Instead, she packed her gear and returned to the ruins. The wind was worse today. Not louder, just more direct, like it was trying to say something too fast for human ears to catch. She returned to the sunken foundation and walked the edge. The basement staircase was still there, partly collapsed, but one wall looked newer, not clean, just less decayed. Like it hadn't been burned as long. She ran her hand along the stone until her fingers found it. A seam. Hidden in the wall was a narrow, rusted door, mostly buried in debris. It took her an hour to dig it out. When she finally opened it, the air inside was ice. Ava descended into darkness, phone flashlight barely cutting through the dust. The space wasn't big, maybe 10 feet wide, but it was untouched. Chalk drawings still clung to the walls, stick figures, trees, and one that made her stop cold. A tall woman standing outside a burning house holding a ring of keys. At the far end of the room, a rusted bed frame. No mattress. Just a pair of small shoes tucked beneath it. And scratched into the floor over and over again. She said she'd come back. Back in town, Ava confronted the librarian again. "I found the room," she said. He didn't ask which room. He just sighed. "It wasn't supposed to go that far," he murmured. "They were supposed to get out." "Who locked them in?" He didn't look at her when he answered. Her name was Margaret Lang. The matron. When the fire started, she locked the basement door, said it was safer, said she'd be back, and she didn't come back, but the fire did. That night, Ava didn't sleep. The whispering didn't stop. She turned off her phone. It turned itself back on. The recorder app opened, began taping. She listened. No wind, just one voice. Eloise again. "She locked us in. You opened the door." And then another voice joined in. Older, broken, not angry, just afraid. They remember now. The next morning, Ava drove to Crestwood Cemetery. There was no grave marked Eloise Michaels, but there was a stone near the edge of the grounds, half sunk into the dirt, worn smooth by time and weather. No name, just one word chiseled faintly. Matron? The grass around it was oddly trimmed, freshly disturbed. Someone had been here. Back in the library, she demanded the death records. Martin, the librarian, hesitated again. "They'll come to you now," he muttered, "if you dig too far." "They already have," she said. "I didn't start this, they did." He handed her an envelope. Inside, 3 newspaper clippings, all dated 1971. Only one had a photo. Margaret Lang, age 42. Head of the orphanage, declared dead in the fire, but her body was never found. What was found? Her keys, clutched in a blackened fist just outside the main door. That night, the wind at the ruins returned with force. It wasn't random anymore. It whistled patterns, rising and falling like breath, like words caught in motion. Ava followed the sound back to the basement. The chalk drawings had changed. New images covered the walls. More eyes. A house burning, children with no faces, and now, her name, written clearly in red chalk. Avia Avia. She turned around, and a small figure stood in the corner, backlit. Still, a child. Eloise. But her eyes were wrong. Not angry, not empty. Expectant. She lifted a finger, pointed behind Ava. Ava turned. The basement door was closed, and on it, the old ring of orphanage keys. Turning, clicking locked. The key clicked. The door sealed. Ava was trapped. She ran to it, yanked, kicked. Nothing. The metal didn't even budge. The room was colder now. The air felt dense, not stale, like it had been holding its breath for 50 years and finally let go. Behind her, the whispering returned, but this time, it wasn't just Eloise. It was all of them. Layered voices, children, dozens of them, some soft, some weeping, one singing off-key, all weaving one sentence over and over again. She locked the door. You opened it. Let us be heard. Ava backed into the corner, breath caught in her throat. Her phone flickered in her hand. Battery 1%. Recording light on. The wind inside the room rose, pressing against her ears, her chest, her mind. She screamed, "I'm sorry, I didn't know." Then, silence. Total. The wind vanished. So did the voices. Ava sat in the dark for what felt like hours. When she woke, it was morning. The door stood open. Sunlight spilled in. The room looked normal. Like nothing had happened. No drawings. No whispers. No Eloise. Just silence. She left Crestwood that day. Didn't tell anyone. Didn't post the episode. She couldn't, because when she tried to listen to the audio, there was nothing there. No wind, no voices, just her own voice, on a loop, whispering over and over. We're still here. 3 weeks later, the Pine Hollow Motel burned to the ground. No injuries, no guests, except one room no one remembered checking in. Inside, a recorder, still running, and on the glass, marked in condensation. She let them out. You've been listening to Haunted Chronicles. If you hear music in the woods, don't follow it. Some legends don't fade. They just wait for someone new to believe in them. Subscribe for more true-feeling horror stories that never stay buried. Like, share, and remember. If you find Ravenwood, you were never supposed to leave. Haunted Chronicles, where every echo might be someone still trapped inside.